So that's why I'm very excited to introduce our 48th Attorney General, Jason Miyares.
Thank you all. It is so great to be here with you all. I want to thank both Chief Settle, Sheriff Chilton, Maggie Cleary with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, President Amy Frazier, and so many of the others that are here to be part of what has become, unfortunately, an invisible war that happens in plain sight, as Chief Settle noted. It happens in every community. It happens in urban, suburban, and rural areas. The world's largest criminal enterprise is narcotics. The second largest criminal enterprise is trafficking of human beings. It's a $150 billion a year problem. We've seen an explosion of it. Some of what's happening on our border, absolutely the cartels are taking advantage of both the chaos there, and you could both see from the statements from the cartel members, those that have been arrested, those that brag on social media, that if you sell narcotic once, you get a profit one time, but if you traffic a human being, that's a profit that happens over and over and over again. That should give you an idea of how evil human trafficking is, that it treats human beings that have such an intrinsic value as simply a commodity, something to profit, something cheap. Well, human beings are not disposable. Human beings are not something you can just treat to be exploited for your own gain. So we've been proud in our office, in the Attorney General's office, working with our federal partners, with Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, our local law enforcement, our sheriffs, our police chiefs, our Commonwealth's attorneys. I like to say Commonwealth's attorneys are oftentimes the only thing between jail and a catch and release program that do incredible work every day. But one thing we discovered is as much as we put a priority, when the Youngkin administration came in, we put together a human trafficking task force. We've been involved in so many discussions. We quickly realized that as much as we can do, we need help. We need people to lock arms with us to be part of the solution. When I say it's happening in plain sight, what it means is there's a good chance that you've interacted with somebody that's actually a trafficking victim and you don't even know it. It's estimated over 80% of those that are victims of human trafficking have actually interacted, for example, with a medical provider while they're being trafficked. In other words, they're sitting next to you in that waiting room, that doctor's office, or with that nurse, and they don't even realize this is somebody that's being trafficked. And so it's so important for us to be able to get those partners. When we worked with HSI and others, part of our human trafficking task force, to expose the human trafficking ring down in Williamsburg this year, it all happened because somebody saw something that was off, and they picked up the phone. And I could tell you, everybody involved in law enforcement up here would tell you so many of the cases that get solved all happen because somebody sees something, say something. And so what we realize is when so many of those that are the victims of trafficking are interacting with the general public, they're going to restaurants, they're going to entertainment venues, they're going to doctor's offices. We wanted to be able to or they're going to hotels and interacting with clerks. We wanted to work with businesses to give them the right tools. This is what to look for, and then this is what happens when you think there's something off. And so we are so pleased to announce that we are partnering with the Culpeper Chamber of Commerce, and I want to personally thank Culpeper Chamber President Amy Frazier, that we're going to partner with them to have individuals at the chamber that are trained. And that if you're an employer and you get 100% of your employees trained in our training module, you'll be part of our 100% Business Alliance Against Trafficking. It's simply a 30-minute training video of what to look for and what to do if you suspect there is trafficking. And as I noted before, what it does is it amplifies everybody that's involved in law enforcement's ability to identify those that are the victims, those that are coming in or out, interacting with us in grocery stores, restaurants, and hotels every day. So what I'd like to do, assuming the multimedia works, and I am not good at operating heavy equipment, so I'm going to rely on some of my team. We're going to show you a quick trailer of that video to give a sense of a flavor of what it looks like. Right now, there's a crime that happens in plain sight in almost every community across the Commonwealth. is human trafficking. And too many Virginians think it's not happening. It is.
Human trafficking is the criminal activity through the use of control and exploitation of another person for the exchange of something of value.
The International Labor Organization has estimated that human trafficking is a $150 billion a year industry. It does not matter the socioeconomics, any religious affiliation, gender, race, all of those are crossed when it comes to human trafficking.
When I was a victim, I didn't see myself as a victim. Traffickers will make it seem like it was your idea.
Human trafficking can be incredibly damaging, lifelong damaging for certain individuals.
Polaris, that runs the National Human Trafficking Hotline, did a study a few years ago, and they identified at least 25 different typologies of human trafficking in the U.S. alone.
Traffickers look like normal people, but they are people who are willing to sell human beings for their own profit.
Every Virginian should have this belief that their fellow neighbor is someone they should both respect and love. And so many of them are being exploited by some of the worst criminals that we know of on this planet.
We talked with an FBI agent, and he said there is trafficking in every hotel in Virginia.
Our businesses have to be partners with us to combat this heinous, heinous crime.
Educating myself and my staff members on human trafficking would allow us to serve the community better by simply keeping it safer. If we're aware of what's going on and we know how to identify it and we have the resources to report it, that in a whole is going to keep people safer.
Teaching people what to look for when we're talking about human trafficking, it's really the awareness, because that's going to be the first step in the reporting process.
If you see somebody being trafficked, if you think they're being trafficked, report it, because something will happen.
When you call and make a tip, you're saying this shouldn't happen to you, and I'm concerned, and I'm gonna call it in.
Thank you for participating in our 100% Business Alliance Against Trafficking initiative. You are a partner to end human trafficking in Virginia. Culpeper Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Amy Frazier.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Amy Frazier, and I am the President and CEO of the Culpeper Chamber of Commerce. It is truly an honor to stand here before you today alongside Police Chief Chris Settle, Sheriff Tim Chilton, Deputy Commonwealth Attorney Maggie Cleary, Commonwealth Attorney Russ Rabb, and our esteemed Attorney General Jason Miyares, as we unveil this groundbreaking initiative that underscores our commitment to ethical business practices and community well-being. This is a transformative endeavor that we believe will resonate with the core values of our community, the Business Alliance Against Trafficking. In our continuous pursuit of fostering a business environment that champions integrity, responsibility, and compassion, we recognize the imperative to address societal changes that extend beyond boardroom discussions. Human trafficking is a grave issue that demands our collective attention, and it is in the spirit of shared responsibility that we introduce this Business Alliance Against Trafficking. This alliance is more than a collaboration. It's a resolute commitment from our business community to stand against human trafficking. By joining forces with the Attorney General's office, we aim to create a formidable coalition that not only raises awareness, but also actively works towards eradicating this heinous crime from our community. Please allow me to extend our deepest gratitude to Attorney General Miyares for joining us here in Culpeper. His unwavering dedication to justice and the well-being of our society has been a guiding force, and his introduction of this initiative reinforces our belief in the power of collaboration. Together, as the Business Alliance Against Trafficking, we aspire to set an example for responsible and ethical business conduct. We invite each and every one of you to become catalysts for change, advocates for justice, and champions for a world where our business successes are intertwined with a profound commitment and to the welfare of all. Thank you. Thank you.
And so I'd like to introduce first some brief remarks from one of our great partners, the Culpeper Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the Deputy Commonwealth Attorney, Ms. Maggie Cleary.
Thank you. Thank you, General. And thank you, Amy. You know, I want to echo Chief Settle's comments that part of the reason why we think that Culpeper is one of the greatest communities in the Commonwealth is because of our Chamber of Commerce. So if we could just give a quick round of applause. So I wanted to say, having worked for a number of people who are standing up here, some things that I've noticed that they have in common. General Miyares and Russ Rabb, and I think Sheriff Chilton all have shared the common task of going into an organization and starting anew and trying to decide how they're going to shape and build that organization and what their legacy is going to be. And I think that it's clear from all of us standing up here and also from what we've seen Attorney General Miyares accomplish that his priorities are fighting crime, but also fighting human trafficking, and we are so grateful for that. I also just wanted to say quickly that if you've ever been to the Capitol in Washington, D.C., you'll notice all around the Capitol building that there's this image everywhere, and it's a bundle of sticks that's tied together. And if you've done some research on U.S. history, the theory behind that is that a bunch of sticks together are a lot stronger than one stick on its own. And that's actually the theory that our country was based on. But it's also something that I saw in practice in Attorney General Miyares' office time and time again. And it's that theory that if we pull many different types of people together with different types of background and experience, we're a lot stronger and we can come out and fight crime a lot better. So it's not just about pulling together our law enforcement partners, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, and the police department that's here today. It's also about things like BAAT and the Chamber of Commerce and local businesses and all the leaders who are in the room today. That's how we can best fight crime, but really how we best fight human trafficking. So thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maggie. And now I'd like to introduce, before we take any questions from the audience, we have a great partnership with our law enforcement heroes, the quiet heroes, as I call them, that do so much to keep our community safe. And Culpeper is indeed a very, very special place. And so I would like to bring up Sheriff Tim. Joel, come on up, Tim. Sheriff.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for the Chamber for being a part of this, and certainly for our business people in the gallery here. You guys taking this plunge is going to be huge for this area. For me, as a new sheriff, I was just joking with Attorney General Miyares that I've seen him more this week than I've seen my own staff. So I've been in Richmond for the last couple of days, and of course he's there. And for me, I'm kind of on tour right now, and it's kind of a weird situation for a new sheriff because I'm going around looking for things to build Culpeper and make it better, and he's providing those things. And by meeting him this week, and by being around all the different lawmakers down in Richmond, it's a different look for us. For many years here at the police department that Chief Settle and I have done, we didn't see that part of it. But being in an elected position now, where I'm going almost every day, is basically chasing that information that's going to make our area better. So I certainly want to thank them and thank Russ Rabb for being in the middle of this fight too. We have a huge demographic here. We've got such a varied demographic, and I don't even know how to really say that, but our demographic is so large on different pieces that we know this is happening here. I have one of the detectives from the Sheriff's Office, Dana Dotson, in the gallery there. She's the one that's going to be the go-to for our office for when it comes to any of the cases that come up. So Dana is one of those people that you can look to, you can reach out to her, but she's going to be somebody that's going to be liaison for Amy's group. So I appreciate everybody coming, and thanks for Attorney General Miyares.
Thank you. Now, are there any questions? I know we have some media here. If not, I will wrap it up. And yes, ma'am.
Who exactly is being trafficked in Virginia?
So if you look at roughly 60% of trafficking victims are trafficked for sex, roughly 40% are trafficked for labor. So you have a combination. You've had obviously what's happened on the border. You do have a significant amount of labor trafficking, but we have an addiction crisis in this country, and so you've seen an explosion of what we call familial trafficking, which are those that are in such the throes of addiction, they're willing to traffic their own child or their own sibling. So some are a combination of foreign nationals, some are those that are from broken homes that are being trafficked. There's this misnomer that if you're a trafficking victim, that somehow you're either a foreign national or you're the cartels that are trafficking you. The cartels are very heavily involved, but to be clear, sometimes it's an individual that they know their trafficker, and they actually, as has been noted in the video, and and Tanya would know if you're our human trafficking coordinator, a lot of the victims don't realize they're being trafficked at the time. They think it's actually, they actually think this person cares for them. And that's part of what makes it so insidious. So it comes in so many different forms. Human trafficking is not just sex. Labor trafficking is a huge portion as well. Let me just end with this with anybody from the media if they can make sure, because there's probably some folks here that are like, okay, what do I look for? What are the signs of somebody, you've noted that this can happen in plain sight. What are the things you look for? I would say some of it's obvious. If it's an unaccompanied minor with somebody that's obviously not their parent, are they disheveled? Do they lack any form of cash payment, any form of identification as well? Tragically, a lot of these traffickers will brand their victims on the neck. So do they have neck tattoos with initials on it? It's actually a way for the trafficker to exert psychological control over their victims. And so those are a lot of it's just common sense as well. And then what do you do if you suspect something? It is as simple as hitting #77 on your cell phone. You text #77 on your cell phone, VSP, that stands for Virginia State Police, and give us your tip of where and what, as much description as you can, that can literally save a life. And that's, as I would note, and I said before, so many cases are broken wide open just because somebody saw something. Could be at a rest stop, could be at a truck stop, could be at a gas station, could be at a restaurant or a doctor's office. It could be as simple as that, and that can be instrumental. So listen, I want to appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate our friends in the media for drawing attention to this, because so many Virginians oftentimes think that's not happening here. Tragically, Culpeper, as we've all noted, is an amazing community, but it is, and we need your help to combat it. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and definitely our Chamber of Commerce. We have great partnership with them, the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the Northern Virginia Hispanic Chamber, the Hampton Roads Chamber, and so many of others are coming alongside on this. We really appreciate the business community being great corporate citizen, locking arms with us, and getting across the finish line to help eradicate the scourge of human trafficking. You have one more question? Okay.
Yes, has the state actually prosecuted a lot of these trafficking cases? Like, where is it happening in the city?
Yeah,
I
so
talked to the chief today, and he said there's not really any specific
well,
cases in Culpeper.
the problem that we have is, number one, for example, a labor trafficking case that was broken up in Williamsburg could not be brought in state court because our labor trafficking laws are so weak. It's actually a big bill that we're pushing in the General Assembly. It had to be brought in federal court. So a lot of it is because we have joint task force with both federal and state. A lot of it is brought in federal court. They have some enhanced penalties. We're also looking to change some of the language in the Virginia Code. For example, believe it or not, trafficking a minor in Virginia is not technically considered a violent crime. And we're also enhancing penalty against the buyers as well. So we want to go after on both sides of the ledger, so to speak. And so it's multifaceted. But part of what makes this a very difficult crime to prosecute is so many victims will not come forward and they're not found. It's estimated on an international level less than 10% of victims are ever actually identified. And you got to realize it's a hard thing to ask somebody to relive some of the worst moments of their life. So I'm proud of this governor. Was something that we championed last session and went into effect in September when the budget was signed. Finally, Virginia has a victim witness protection fund. And it doesn't just apply for human trafficking victims, it applies for anyone. But a lot of victims will not testify if they don't feel safe. It's modeled on the federal level, it's administered through the Virginia State Police, and it's the idea of putting the victims in a place where they feel safe and secure, that they could testify, and having a real victim-centered, trauma-informed care where they realize that part of their healing process, part of the way that they can empower themselves and take back their life, figuratively speaking, is to testify against the person that has trafficked them and exert power on that person that has tried to exert power on them in such hideous ways. So it comes in so many different forms, both labor and sex, and it's something that we take quite seriously. Yes, ma'am.
So trafficking and addiction are often,
Yeah.
And so how is this addressing that relationship?
Well, that's multifaceted. I'll give you an example. One of the things that we found in our office is so many of the trafficking victims, some of the trafficking shelters want you to be sober before you go and get trauma-informed care. And so it's almost multifaceted. We have to get victims sober and on the road to recovery from addiction before we can get them on the road to recovery emotionally, healing from the trafficking. So, we're very proud of the fact our office went after some of the largest pharmaceutical companies on the planet that helped fuel the opioid crisis, that fueled the addiction crisis. And so, for example, over $1 billion of settlements are coming back to Virginia. That's not money that comes to my office. We worked with our friends in the General Assembly to set up the Opioid Abatement Authority that does grant funding. So I had the honor last year of standing in Abingdon at the ribbon cutting for the Men and Women's Recovery Center, first of its kind in a 150-mile radius, just for women, over 50 beds, or later get expanded, where women can go, and some of them obviously are victims of trafficking, can go to recover, to get on the road to sobriety, and that's an important first step. So many of these issues, you are very, very accurate. Addiction and trafficking go hand in hand because a lot of the traffickers will use addiction to opioids or other narcotics as a way to control the victims, and so they often will show up once they've recovered in a state where they need to sober and get on the path to recovery in that film before we can move forward on making sure they can testify against their trafficker.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
You said you had facilities that people are going to, women or men, or to get help so they can, testify against. How many of these facilities are you?
Well, these are not facilities run by the Attorney General's office. The way the Opioid Abatement Authority runs is they are recovery centers that apply for grant money, and then the Opioid Abatement Authority, that's chaired by Todd Pillion of the for the Virginia Senate, is the chairman. It's a committee that goes through the grants and then provides the grant money. And some of it's existing facilities that are going to be able to expand rapidly. Some of them are brand new. And so what we realize is that treatment in Fairfax may be different than what you need in Galax. What are the demands, and even what are the narcotics that you're dealing with? Tragically, opioid seems to be in almost every community, as is fentanyl. And so we have aggressively expanded. It's going to be the greatest influx of money into local government as well to treat in-person treatment for addiction that we've ever had in Virginia.
Where do you have to go to?
The Opioid Abatement Authority, you just Google Virginia Opioid Abatement Authority, and there's a website, and that shows you the process of both applying, and they have been expeditiously overseeing the funds. So our kind of humorous joke we put it is that we sue these companies, we get the settlements, but they're the ones that distribute the money, and the idea is they can get the treatment, the money for treatment that is both in person and in the community for those that need it the most. And some of our communities have been particularly devastated, particularly in Southwest Virginia. All right, thank you all so much. Thank you all for being part of this important day. God bless you all.